Well, this is not a video I ever saw myself making. A critique discussing my gripes with arguably my favorite game of all time. The game that got me involved in speedrunning to begin with. The game that sort of started it all for me. Oh, sorry. I should probably introduce myself. Hi, I'm English Ben. I'm a Grand Theft Auto speedrunner who mainly focuses on the 3D trilogy, aka GTA 3, Vice City, and San Andreas. On top of being a speedrunner, I also like to make videos playing devil's advocate when it comes to these games, and usually end up making die-hard fans very upset. I recently hit 10,000 subscribers here on YouTube. I ran a poll, and it seems that the majority of you want me to investigate the game that I'm a die-hard fan of. I've already made 2 videos on GTA 5 and GTA San Andreas, and the narrative of these videos were essentially why this game isn't as good as you generally speaking, not specifically you, think it is. Let's flip it around this time and look at why GTA Vice City isn't as good as I think it is. In my other videos, the first thing I always took a look at was the experience a standard player would have before they get stuck into the story and the world itself. This includes things such as settings and anything else you might have tinkered with before firing up the game. As usual, we are taking a look at the PC version, as this is the version where the settings matter the most. The original 3D trilogy has a history of having very shoddy PC ports, and Vice City is no exception. Vice City has many bugs that GTA 3 and San Andreas also suffer from when trying to run them on modern computers, such as the mouse sensitivity option only changing the sensitivity for a single axis, or the mouse sense resetting every time you start a new game. Or the mouse simply not working at all. You get the point here. It's real bad. Now don't get me wrong, I'm fully aware these PC ports were made 2 decades ago, so it makes perfect sense that the developers weren't going to be totally psychic and magically make their game work with hardware that did not exist. What doesn't make sense, however, is that these bugs have been very well known for years and were never fixed. The second the copyright license for Billie Jean expires, Rockstar were very quick to update the game, but if the mouse literally doesn't work, making the game unplayable without community intervention? Nah, fuck it, don't care. Well, that would have been my complaint before the absolute cunts at Rockstar and Take Two decided to remove these games off of the digital marketplaces entirely in favor of their dogshit definitive edition. Okay, I'm derailing a little bit. Let's get back to VC. GTA Vice City follows Tommy Vercetti, a member of the Fraley family mafia, who has just finished a 15-year prison sentence for the family and is now back in the game. His boss, Sonny Farelli, sends him to Vice City in order to expand their business down south. Tommy meets with the family lawyer, Ken Rosenberg, and heads to complete a drug deal with the Vance brothers, Lance and Vic, down at the docks. The deal is ambushed by a group of unknown hitmen, and only Tommy, Ken, and Lance survive the onslaught. Tommy is now tasked with finding out who jumped the deal, and to get revenge on them for the benefit of the Farelli family. And that is where our journey begins.
I poked my head out of the gutter for 1 freaking second and fate shovels shit in my face.
Go get some sleep.
What are you gonna do?
I'll drop by your office tomorrow and we can start sorting this mess out.
Now, many of you, myself included, will have a lot of nostalgia when playing through GTA Vice City. I played this game a lot when I was a kid, but I never completed it. My furthest memory through the game is being unable to beat Death Row, which is the mission where you save Lance from the scrapyard. So I assume I never made it much further. As an adult, I went back and replayed the game casually, as I'm sure many of you will have done also. This critique will be based on that experience, as you're playing through the game again with zero knowledge besides childhood memories. GTA Vice City was developed in less than a year after the success of GTA 3. It was originally planned as DLC for that game, but as Rockstar's ideas became more and more complex, the decision was made to turn it into a standalone title. Mechanically, the game is almost identical to GTA 3, but that doesn't mean that Vice City didn't have its own share of innovation. Vice City was the first 3D GTA to have a non-linear storyline. You are slowly eased into it, as the early portions are mostly linear with a few minor choices of mission order before you enter the second half of the game, and it is completely your choice how you wish to progress. However, we're getting ahead of ourselves a little. Let's take a look at the early game. Due to the early linear structure of Vice City's missions, most players will take a similar mission order early on, regardless of how experienced they are with the game's mechanics. Personally, once I'm given several options between main story and side content, I'll usually try to do all the side content first before moving forward, so long as that side content remains fun. If you were a fan playing on release after finishing GTA 3 less than a year ago, it makes even more sense to explore the side content early, as in GTA 3, if you didn't do this, you would sometimes get locked out of some of the side missions if you progressed too far in the story. Thankfully, Vice City has fixed this problem, but I believe the timeline here means that logically most players will try and see everything the game has to offer. This is where the first large issue presents itself in Vice City: Avery Carrington's missions. As soon as you complete the fourth story mission in the game, Riot, you gain the ability to take missions from Avery Carrington. This is your first real branch of side missions besides potentially doing an assassination contract for Mr. Black in between story missions at this point. As we mentioned before, it's logical for a lot of players to start the Avery missions sooner rather than later. This could be for the reasons I mentioned before, or for more simple reasons such as casual players believing that Avery's missions are required to complete the game. They're actually fully optional, but from my research and experience it seems a lot of fans didn't know, even to this day. So what makes Avery missions so bad? Well, the issue lies with one particular mission, and I'm sure most of you are already taking a guess at which one I'm referring to.
Now look here, son. I got a problem and I reckon you could help me with it.
I'm no builder.
No, I was thinking more of your demolition skills. Now this is the development as planned, and this is the property that we're looking at.
You're trying to say this new office block is kind of in the way.
You catch on quick. Now I'm gonna head out of town for a while, and if that office development were to face sudden and insurmountable structural problems, then
As a civil-minded individual, you feel obliged to step in and save the rejuvenation of an important area of the city.
Where can I get more guys like you?
Demolition Man is the second Avery mission, and it requires you to blow up a building by planting explosives inside at set locations. Sounds easy enough, except that you need to man a remote-controlled toy helicopter to transport the explosives. As this mission is taken so early on in most players' playthroughs, it's likely that the player is only just grasping the basic mechanics, such as driving and shooting. GTA enjoyers in my audience will know that flying planes or helicopters is a whole different ballgame in terms of difficulty. It doesn't help that the controls themselves really aren't that intuitive, and options for rebinding your controls being limited, especially on the original PS2 release. This is what gave Demolition Man its reputation of being a stupidly hard mission. Not because the mission was particularly brutal, but simply because the mission threw you in the deep end way too quickly. You don't even learn how to fly the damn thing until the timer is already ticking down. I think a tutorial before the mission begins would have worked wonders here, and also not having this mission unlock until later in the game. Rockstar already did this with Avery's third mission, 2-Bit Hit, and I think this should have followed suit. Another example of the game having poor communication with the player, and therefore leading to a problematic mission, is Messing with the Man, the second mission for Mitch Baker and the biker gang. At this point in the story, Tommy is working for Love Fist, the friendly neighborhood drunkards with a record deal and a love for misogyny. They want some security for their upcoming gig, so Tommy has to prove himself to the biker gang in order for them to oblige. One of Tommy's tasks is to simply stick it to the man, translated from biker gang terms to disrespecting authority, by creating as much mayhem as possible. Seems like a fairly standard mission in GTA, basically beat a criminal. Again, it seems easy, right? Well, this is also a mission that many first-timers get stuck on for a long time. Why is that? Simply put, this mission goes against all logic in the way it's designed. First of all, the mission is on a timer for some reason, because if you take 121 seconds to cause chaos, that's not good enough, but 120 seconds is perfectly reasonable. Does Mitch have a meeting he needs to attend or something? Why does the time matter at all? Are they watching him out the window and have such tiny attention spans that they get bored if you're not fast enough? If you're an absolute brain box with an IQ above 60, your brain will immediately go to preparing for this mission by getting the biggest, fattest, most morbidly obese guns you can possibly find. Rockets, grenades, flamethrowers, you name it. You need to cause some serious destruction, and these are the best tools for the job, right? The issue is that if you use these weapons, you will fail the mission every single time. Why? Because the mission doesn't properly calculate the damage you do. It's a little complicated, but I'll show you a comparison on the screen. Basically, the mission script has a cap on how much damage you can do. Shooting a car with an SMG is the same as hitting a car with an RPG in terms of incrementing the meter. This means that piss-weak weapons that shoot fast are actually vastly better at incrementing the meter and completing the mission. The less damage you do, the better. Knowing this, the mission becomes extremely trivial. But without that back-end knowledge of the game, this mission is a complete nightmare on first playthroughs because the game simply doesn't tell you how to complete it. Moving on to my biggest issue with Vice City now, and another example of the non-linear style simply not working. The asset system. As I touched on before, Vice City went for a completely different approach to distance itself from the linear mission structure of GTA 3. The entire second half of the game has you doing missions for assets you purchase with absolutely no requirements on order or priority. Story-wise, this is to let Tommy build an empire in Vice City and completely take it over from the Mafia he's trying so hard to distance himself from. This makes perfect sense in terms of narrative, but in terms of gameplay, it's the complete opposite. Let's run down what you need to do in order to beat the game. After Tommy finds out who ambushed the deal he was making in the intro portion of the game, kills the perpetrator and takes over his mansion, there is one more mission that linearly teaches you about properties and assets in the game. I say teach, but all it does is show a cutscene at the end of the mission telling you that you can now go and buy shit. There is also a phone call from Avery advising Tommy to invest in property, but neither are super clear in this being your ultimate goal to progress. Once this mission is complete, Tommy must take over 7 assets around the map in order to unlock the final 2 story missions. 2 of these 7 assets are mandatory, these being the Vassetti estate and the printworks. The other 5 assets are completely up to you. You can head to the strip club and make your parents ashamed of you, work for a taxi company, or commit a bank heist with some of the world's top criminals.
Shit! Where's Hillary? I'll give him abandonment issues.
Hey guys! Get in! I got you covered!
There's a whole plethora of issues with this system. The first being what is mandatory. The Vassetti estate being mandatory isn't a big deal, as the missions are available from the beginning of this section. During your playthrough, you will see a V icon which implies that you have more missions to do, which is absolutely correct. You complete the 2 extra missions and gain Vassetti estate as an asset. Perfect, 1 out of 7 complete. After gaining the asset, there is still a V icon on the minimap, which implies you have more missions to do. This is extremely confusing to new players, as you don't have any more missions there. Not only that, but you haven't unlocked any more missions anywhere else on the map. You are completely stuck with no direction, and if you skip that tiny cutscene a few missions ago, you're completely screwed on where to go. Of course, we know the answer is to go and find more assets around the map, but this is not clearly communicated to the player at all. From their perspective, they've simply run out of missions and have no idea what to do next. A lot of new players will just quit at this point, as it simply isn't worth driving aimlessly to try and find things to do. They're not marked anywhere, and if you're not paying absolute attention, the icons are so small that you might drive right past them anyway. Even if you didn't quit at this point and were somehow able to find 5 assets and purchase them, you will likely get stuck again. This is due to how some of the assets are laid out. Some of them, like the taxi firm and the bank heist, have clear mission markers and missions to complete within. These make sense and are easy to progress through. Some assets, however, you purchase them and there's just nothing. Let's take the strip club for example. You purchase it, no mission markers, no phone calls, no icons on the map besides the strip club itself. What are you supposed to do here? You're supposed to spend $300 on strippers inside the club. Is this communicated anywhere? Nope. Nowhere in the game are you told how to complete this asset. So unless you really love low polygon strippers, you are never going to complete this asset and have effectively wasted your money and time. How about the ice cream factory? Here you need to sell 50 ice creams. Sounds simple enough, but it takes a while as you can only sell a maximum of 4 at a time and the police are constantly on you for some reason. It's just ice cream, man, leave me alone. Also, I forgot to mention one key detail. All 50 have to be done in a row. If you leave the van or even turn off the van's jingle at any time, you'll end the mission and have to do another 50 from scratch. Is this communicated anywhere? Of course not. Again, this is an asset that you will most likely never complete without outside knowledge of some kind. These are just a few examples of how poorly designed the assets are, and how easily you can just get completely stuck because the game for some reason hides progression from you. The final nail in the coffin is that even if you purchase 5 or more assets and complete their missions, there's another chance that you will still be stuck. How? How after all this time can you still get stuck? Well, it's due to what I mentioned before. One other asset is mandatory, and this is not communicated anywhere. You could buy and complete every single asset besides the printworks and still be stuck because you didn't complete this specific one. Again, for the final time, this is not communicated anywhere. If I got to this point in my playthrough and I was still being shafted by the game, I'd put it in the bin as soon as possible. Vice City is still my favorite game of all time, but it isn't without its flaws. Some of the missions are poorly written, and the non-linear structure really didn't do the game any favors. However, the only way to move forward and make big strides is to fail a couple of times first. For only 9 months worth of development, I think Rockstar did a hell of a job creating what they did in such a short amount of time. A lot of these issues have been ironed out since, and non-linear structures work a lot more seamlessly in more recent Rockstar titles. I firmly believe that the shortcomings of GTA 3 and Vice City were used as a learning experience in order to allow future titles to thrive. What do you think? Let me know of your thoughts, either good or bad, in the comments. Thank you for joining me today, and take care.
'Cause there ain't no up north anymore. It's all down south now.
Wait, does that mean what I think it means? Tommy, baby!
What do you think it means?
That we're in charge. I mean that you're in charge. Oh, Tommy!
You know, Ken, I think this could be the beginning of a beautiful business relationship. After all, you're a conniving, backstabbing, two-bit thief, and I'm a convicted psychotic killer and drug dealer.
I know. Ain't it just beautiful?